While everyone was refreshing the price chart this week, three things happened that the mainstream crypto media almost completely buried. South Korea's largest crypto-friendly bank just went live testing on Ripple's network. The US Congress just put the crypto tax bill at the 1-yard line. And the biggest XRP treasury company on the planet just crossed nearly $500 million in assets under management. Three signals, all in the same week. And somehow, retail investors are still asking me, why isn't the price moving? Let me pull back the curtain on what is actually happening here, because what I'm about to show you is not being explained to retail investors the way it should be. Welcome back. I'm Plan XRP Admin. This channel exists for one reason: to cut through the noise, the hype, and the distraction, and give you the clean, data-driven read on what is actually unfolding with XRP right now. No Moonboy fantasy, no panic, just the structure. Today, we're going deep on three convergent signals that are telling the same story from three completely different directions. Let's jump in. Here's the hard truth. The number one mistake retail investors make is judging an asset by the price alone. They look at a chart, they don't see the number they want, and they decide nothing is happening. But I want you to understand something fundamental today. Price is a lagging indicator. Positioning is a leading indicator. And right now, the positioning across regulatory infrastructure, institutional capital, and banking networks is screaming what the price has not yet reflected. Let me explain why this moment is structurally different from every other moment in XRP's history. We have been talking on this channel about the concept of the three-lock system. Before institutional capital can flood into a digital asset at the scale we're talking about, trillions, not billions, three locks have to be opened. Lock 1, legal clarity. Lock 2, banking infrastructure. Lock 3, treasury-level adoption. For most of XRP's history, all three locks were closed simultaneously. The SEC lawsuit had Lock 1 sealed shut. Most banks wouldn't touch Ripple's network with a 10-foot pole, and corporate treasury adoption was theoretical. Think about what is happening right now as I walk you through each one of these. Lock 1, legal and regulatory clarity. The House Ways and Means Committee just confirmed that the U.S. crypto tax framework is at the 1-yard line. Chairman Jason Smith, a Republican out of Missouri, confirmed that the committee markup is coming very soon and that bipartisan talks are ongoing. The key areas: stablecoin yield rules, DeFi reporting requirements, capital gains treatment, and broader digital asset compliance. Now think about what this removes. This removes one of the most critical blockers for institutional capital: compliance and legal risk. If a major institution cannot clearly account for their digital asset exposure from a tax perspective, they cannot hold it. They cannot allocate. The moment that framework is finalized, that blocker disappears. Lock 2, banking infrastructure. And this is the one that broke this week in a way I want to make sure you fully appreciate. South Korea's K-Bank, their largest crypto-friendly banking partner, just confirmed a live test of on-chain cross-border remittances using Ripple's global network and blockchain infrastructure. The signing ceremony was April 27th. K-Bank is not some fringe institution. This is a real bank running a real test on a live network. They are specifically evaluating speed, cost efficiency, and transparency of overseas remittance. And the phrase that matters there is existing overseas remittance system. This is not a replacement of something experimental. They are evaluating whether Ripple's infrastructure can upgrade a real, running, revenue-generating system. That is a bank putting its reputation on the line. That is not a press release. That is a trial with stakes. Lock 3, treasury adoption. And this is where the story of Evernote comes in, and I want to spend real time here because this matters more than most people realize. Evernote, the largest XRP treasury company in the world, is currently holding 473.1 million XRP. That's approximately 473 million tokens removed from liquid circulation sitting inside a corporate treasury. Let's do the math here that most retail investors gloss over. Right now, exchange reserves are sitting at approximately 2.76 billion XRP. That number alone should get your attention. The total circulating supply is roughly 55 to 57 billion XRP, and of that, 2.76 billion is sitting on exchanges available for purchase. That is approximately 4.8% of circulating supply sitting on exchanges. That is not a lot of available liquidity. And when you remove Evernode's 473 million from the picture, along with the other institutional holders, locked escrow, and long-term holders who are not selling, the real float shrinks even further. Now here is where the math gets interesting. Let's talk about what has to happen when institutional capital starts flowing. We're talking about a cross-border payments market worth $150 trillion annually. The daily Forex market trades $7.5 trillion every single day. The $27 trillion locked in Nostro and Vostro accounts globally, that is the target market Ripple is going after. Even capturing a fraction of that flow requires XRP to function as a bridge asset at scale. And here is the math that the crowd ignores. At higher prices, fewer tokens are needed per transaction. A bank moving $10 million at $2 XRP needs 5 million tokens. At $20, it needs $500,000. The liquidity efficiency actually improves at higher prices. So institutional adoption is not just bullish from a demand perspective, it creates a structural design requirement for higher prices. This isn't a prediction, it's a requirement built into how on-demand liquidity actually functions. And look at the broader tokenization wave being discussed at every major financial institution right now. $4 trillion in assets are expected to be tokenized on-chain within the next several years. The XRP ledger, with its native DEX, its low fees, its settlement finality under 4 seconds, is architected precisely for this use case. This is not speculation. This is design alignment with where the market is heading. Let me now address something I know a lot of you are feeling right now. The price isn't moving the way you expected. The action feels slow. The frustration is real. I see it. I feel it too. I've been through multiple cycles in this market, and I want to be honest with you. The emotional weight of a slow grind is real. It tests even the most disciplined investors. But here is what separates the crowd from the informed. The crowd measures progress by price. The informed measure progress by positioning and infrastructure build-out. Ask yourself this. Does a bank the size of K-Bank in South Korea sign a formal partnership agreement and run a live remittance test on Ripple's network if they think this technology is going away? Absolutely not. Banks don't gamble. They don't run pilots on infrastructure. They aren't seriously evaluating for permanent integration. Every dollar a bank spends on integration testing is a dollar committed to due diligence. That is smart money moving, quietly, methodically. And the Clarity Act, we're getting updates now from House Financial Services Chair French Hill that many of the remaining issues around stablecoin sales practices and DeFi were already resolved in the House version. He specifically said the Senate has leaned heavily on the House's work on both FIT 21 and the Digital Asset Clarity Act. That means the legislative runway is shorter than most retail investors realize. The framework isn't starting from scratch. The groundwork is already laid. And then look at Evernode. The COO of Evernode, who spent 20 years in fintech and a decade building payments infrastructure in partnership with Visa and MasterCard, stood up at XRPL Japan in Tokyo and said, "Better technology alone doesn't always win, but I feel we are in a very special moment right now with blockchain." This is not a crypto influencer talking. This is a career payments infrastructure executive who has built systems at the Visa and MasterCard level. When someone with that background looks at the XRP ledger and says this feels like the iPhone moment, that is not hype. That is a technical assessment from someone who has seen what real infrastructure transformation looks like from the inside. This isn't retail FOMO. This is calculated positioning by people who have spent their careers building the plumbing of global finance and who are now directing their work toward the XRP ledger. So when does this break open? I'm not going to give you a date. Anyone who gives you a specific price target with a specific date attached to it is guessing. What I can do is point to the structural catalysts that are either live right now or on an identifiable timeline. The crypto tax framework markup is imminent. That's not my word. That's the word of the House Ways and Means Chair. Committee markup happens. institutions get clarity, and one of the three locks I described opens fully. The Clarity Act is moving closer to a House floor vote. French Hill confirmed the Senate is aligning with housework. The draft convergence is a sign of real legislative momentum, not political theater. XRP Las Vegas is happening in just days. These events have historically been where real announcements drop: partnerships, integrations, product launches. Watch that space closely. Whatever comes out of it, we'll break it down immediately. And K-Bank's live remittance pilot is running right now. That is not a future catalyst, that is a present tense signal. When that pilot produces results and those results are positive, and given Ripple's network performance, there is no structural reason they wouldn't be. Watch how fast other South Korean institutions start asking the same question K-Bank is asking. The fuse is lit. The timeline is not a matter of if. It is a matter of when the structure makes the signal loud enough that even the crowd can't ignore it. I want to come back to that exchange reserve number one more time. 2.76 billion XRP on exchanges. When institutional demand arrives, not slowly, but in waves the way institutional capital always moves, that available supply gets absorbed extremely quickly. The window in which XRP is available at these levels is narrowing, not because of hype, because of math, because of adoption, because of the infrastructure being built right now in South Korea, in Washington, D.C., in Tokyo, and in boardrooms that will never make a YouTube video about it. The question is not whether this plays out. The question is whether you are positioned when it does. The door does not stay open forever. Here's my honest read on where we are. We are at the convergence point of three simultaneous structural unlocks: regulatory, banking infrastructure, and treasury adoption. And the market hasn't priced it in yet. When XRP moves, it does not move gradually. It compresses months of stagnation into days of vertical action. And I believe this next cycle will move faster and higher than most retail investors are prepared for. If you've been watching this channel, you're not the crowd. You're the informed. You understand the structure. You understand the math. You understand what institutions are doing while the crowd is watching the chart. Stay patient. Stay rational. Stay positioned. Comment signal below if you made it to the end of this one and you understand what is actually unfolding here. I want to know who is actually paying attention. I'm Plan XRP admin. The math doesn't lie, and the system is almost complete. See you in the next one.